everyone, you're back on Braden's Kitchen, and today I'm going to be making deep dish pizza. So, the first thing I have to do is, I already mixed my sugar and my yeast together. I didn't add the water yet. So you want your water to be warm but not hot, so that way it doesn't overactivate and blow up. So I'm gonna add the warm water right now. And it'll mix in the bowl, and I have to leave it sitting for about 5 to 10 minutes. So while that's rising, I'm going to add my half a cup of oil to the bowl. Well, to the measuring cup, I guess. That's perfect. All right, so now that all the wet ingredients are done, I'll meet you back when I start with the dry ingredients. It isn't quite ready yet, but after I add the flour to the bowl, I'll probably mix in the oil and the cream of tartar and the salt along with the flour and the yeast and oil. All right, so this recipe calls for 3.5 cups, but with dough you always want to add a little bit more flour than the recipe says, just that way it doesn't get too sticky. So I'm gonna scoop the flour in so that way it doesn't so that way it doesn't get packed, and it needs to be loose, and so that way oxygen can get in to the flour. So I'm scooping in the flour. I'll show you guys leveling off the first cup and adding it to the bowl, and then after that I'll show you when I come back. And remember, you can always get this recipe and many more recipes at bradenskitchen.blogspot.com. So I'm going to level this off now. Alright, so I'm pouring it in the bowl, and then I'll come back after all the flour's added. Okay, so I added all the flour. Now I need to add the cream of tartar. Calls for 1/8 of a teaspoon. So I'm going to, nope, this is 1/4, 1/8. Alright, so 1/8 of a teaspoon. But like the flour, it's not leveled off, so I gotta level it off. Then I know my workspace is messy, but this flour is gonna come in handy when I'm kneading it on the table. And then I just need a little shake of sea salt. And then my yeast is proofed. So I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna add the yeast as well as my oil. And now I'm gonna retouch my dough hook, which I took off so that way it was easier to knead to add the flour in. And then I have to lock it in place, and then I want to stir it on a very low speed so that way the flour doesn't jump all over the place. And then I'll come back after it's all done. All right, so I just unlatched it so the dough hook isn't locked in anymore. And now the dough is a perfect mixture, perfect for kneading. And then I have some flour right here. Now to incorporate the flour in, And then I basically just have to knead it so that way everything gets mixed together. If the dough hook missed anything. So I'm gonna knead it right now, and then I'm going to put it in the glass bowl right here. And then here's a little chef's secret that I've been doing for my challahs and what I made in the past. Whenever I put dough in a warm place to rise, I normally put it in the oven. And I preheat the oven to 170 degrees. And then I turn it off once it reaches that. And then that basically gives it a little booster. Because that makes the oven a little bit warmer. And then it rises, like the recipe says that it rises in about 6 hours. But when I've made this, it's risen in probably like an hour and a half to 2 hours. But by all means, like if you can leave it for more than that, and like the more time that it sits, it rises larger. But you only need it to double in size before you start with the sauce and cheese, which I don't have right now, but I'll show you later. So once again, you can get all my recipes in this video and this recipe too from my website, bradenskitchen.blogspot.com. I'll put it in the description. Okay, so I'm finished kneading, and then I poured some oil in my bowl, roughly about like 3 tablespoons. Probably about 1 tablespoon. And then I have to put the dough in my oiled bowl. And then I'm gonna cover it with this towel while I put it in the oven until it's doubled in size, roughly, like I said before, an hour and a half to 2 hours. But you can leave it in there for longer. And then while it's in the oven, I'm gonna clean up the table. I'm gonna do some dishes, and then when I come back, I'll have the tomato sauce and the cheese. Okay, so I just took this out of the oven. It's been in for about 5.5 hours. The dough is right here. And then it has a really nice dry surface on the top. But what I'm gonna do is I guess it's staying, but I'm gonna take this from the bowl. I'm gonna put it back on the table. So right now I have to mix up the dough because of the dry surface on the top. I need to incorporate that throughout the dough so that way one area isn't dry while the other area is wet. And right now that everything's incorporated, I'm going to cut this dough in half because, well, here's what I do. I make 2 pizzas. I make 2 smaller pizzas. But what you can do is you can use this dough and make 1 large pizza. And that's actually what the recipe calls for. But since my dad's a vegan and we use cheese and everything, we make 2 separate pizzas. And then I'll show you what pizza we make versus what he makes. So anyway, so I melted a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of margarine. This is margarine, so I'm going to start first with that. So I'm going to dump this in the vegan pizza container. And then I'm just going to mix this around. So I have to spread it. And then I have to do the same thing with the butter for the other pizza. Now is I have to spread the dough I have to basically spread the dough. I'm flattening this out on the counter. And then now that it's flattened, I'm putting it back in the pan. Okay, so I have the 2 pizzas. One is vegan, and one is going to be regular. So I chopped up some Tofurky vegan sausage, which is going to go in the vegan pizza. So I'm going to, well, actually, I have to add the cheese first. So I'm adding the vegan diet cheese that I bought. So that's basically Daiya is non-dairy cheese. It's soy-free, gluten-free. So, so it's vegan. So that's good. So I'm just putting a lot on because it's shredded instead of sliced, which is what it's supposed to be. But anyway, so now that the cheese is on, I'm gonna add the sausage pieces that I cut. And then once I'll show you, but once all the sausage pieces are on there, I know it looks like a lot of sausage, but once all the sausage is on there, I will be adding the sauce, which is a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. And then I added one of the smaller cans, I think it's 8 ounces, of diced tomatoes, so that way it can be like little bits of actual tomatoes instead of just like tomato sauce. So I'm adding that right now to the vegan pizza. I'm gonna use half for the vegan pizza and half for the regular. I'll probably end up using less, but I'll come back after I am done with the vegan pizza. Okay, so I finished with the vegan pizza. So I added the sausage, cheese, and the sauce. So now I have my mozzarella open, and then I'm probably gonna add about 7 or 8 slices. But if you make a large pizza in one of the larger pans, use all 10 slices that come in the pack. I mean, you're welcome to use more or less. I just suggest using 10 because the point of it is to be cheesy. So right now I'm adding, just to coat the pan and the dough and everything. So that's what I'm adding right now. This is what the cheese one looks like. And this is what the vegan one looks like. So as you can see a little bit on the vegan one, there's little bits of sausage that comes up through the sauce. I preheated my oven to 450 degrees, and then I'll cook it, and when it comes out, I'll tell you how long I cooked it for, because depending on like the humidity and everything, the air pressure, it takes longer to cook sometimes, and sometimes I go under the limit. So I'll come back after it's done. All right, so I took my pizzas out of the oven, and they cooked for about 25 minutes. They came out, the crust color came out perfect, and I'm gonna taste my first bite now. And I know I eat my pizza very weird. This is just how I was taught, and I continue, I've not changed. Almost as good as Lou Malnati's. I don't think any homemade pizza can ever compare to that. But this is the best homemade pizza I've ever had. Get in your kitchen and make this. Go to bradenskitchen.blogspot.com, and I'll see you next time. Bye.